Hey, g'day team. Welcome to the show tonight. Not live, pre-recorded conversation. We ended up managing to catch up with Debbie Ngarewa-Packer. She was made available to me this afternoon around 2 o'clock, so we couldn't turn down the opportunity, especially because we talked yesterday about Christopher Luxon's comments about two separate systems and sort of ruling out Te Pati Maori, sort of not ruling them out. So I had a chance to talk to Debbie this afternoon. I thought we can't pass this up. So it's going to be a little half-hour show for you tonight, a bit of a special and an opportunity for you to hear from Debbie some things to do with whatever Three Waters is called now, some things to do with are they running in every electric seat, and quite a lot to do with forming a government after the election and what they could do. Before we do any of that, I want to say huge thanks to our patrons. Big particular thanks tonight to Mr. Anderson, who you can see down here, who signed up 2 nights ago, I believe. Mr. Anderson signed up to our fuel level. If you're interested in supporting what we do and being a part of what we do, then all you need to do is head to patreon.com/big hairy news. And as I've been saying for a couple of weeks, look at this. You want to be a producer, there is a space right here where your name could go. Maybe you run a business. Come and be a patron under your business name. And then every time we broadcast, you'll get at least one, if not 2, little adverts. That's not a bad way of doing it. Maybe we should do that. If you're a business, you have to be a certain level to support what we're doing. I don't know, just a thought. Anyway, thanks heaps for being on board to our patrons. You help us get through every single week and every single month with a little bit here and there. Other than that, as I said, this is pre-recorded, so talk to yourselves. I won't be able to put up any of your chats tonight. Be nice to each other in the comments. And I will introduce right now to you the conversation I had this afternoon with Debbie Ngarewa-Packer, co-leader of Te Pati Maori. Welcome to the show, co-leader of the Māori Party, Debbie Ngarewa-Packer. Welcome and thank you for joining us.
No worries. Thanks for having me, Pat.
I want to ask you a really dumb question first of all, because I think I missed the press release. Do you guys still use the Māori Party, or is it Te Pati Maori now and that's it? Like, because when it was Te Pati Maori, I looked for a press release and I was like, what's going on? Because it was still MaoriParty.com, I think, on the website. What's happening with the branding, I guess, is the most important question of the day.
Oh, good question. Te Pati Maori, and I guess that's about us being clear on our kupu and progressing it. So I think we've probably come from a transition period where pre-2020 we were known as Māori Party only, and we've progressed, and I guess it's all part and parcel of us going into the next generation, really, and that significance of being able to call ourselves Te Pati Maori,
So that's the brand. Yeah. That's the branding. Full stop. Now that'll be the website. That'll be all media outlets. It'll be Te Pati Maori. It won't be Māori Party.
I'm looking at you with our team of 2 MPs and probably 3 or 4 staff. Definitely. And as you're talking about the website, I'm like, okay, I must write that down and tell somebody that.
And no problem.
Party.
Yeah, no, it's cool. I like it. Let me just ask you before we kind of get into the main question I wanted to talk to you about today, which was some of Christopher Luxon's comments earlier in the week. Three Waters was announced yesterday. Well, sorry, not Three Waters, Affordable Water, whatever the new name is by any other name. What's Te Pati Maori think about the new iteration of the 10 regions and the slightly new way of doing it? Are you guys on board, or are you still see gaps and holes? Are you worried about it?
Oh, yeah, we still see gaps and holes. We didn't support the Three Waters, I'm sure that you know, and that was based on the fact that the real bigger issue here is the rights and interests of water, the mana of wai, the fact that we shouldn't be polluting and looking after, and should be looking after our taonga. So we sort of have that high principle stand of that first and foremost being determined. And the mana o te wai and rights interests actually still sit with the tribunal. So we will continue to have that principled stand. Whether they've broken it down into 10 little groups or 15 or 12, or the reality is that it's still a major issue for us as a nation, the pollution, the bottling, the lack of respect for our water. So infrastructure is one part of it, but the bigger picture for us is the protection of our taonga, the protection of wai.
So Te Pati Maori's focus is really more on the water, not to negate the infrastructure, whereas others maybe focus on the infrastructure as the water being the byproduct.
Yeah, that's right. And I think if you continue to, and I heard Nick Smith sort of was upset about stormwater being involved and this been involved. The reality is if we keep talking about the bricks and mortar and we don't actually talk about the preservation, the fact we shouldn't be bottling water, the fact that our aquifers are in danger, the fact that we have too much nitrogen and stuff coming in, doesn't matter what we invest in infrastructure, there'll be nothing to put in it, that's drinkable, that's quality. So, yeah, again, and I think people sort of, maybe it's seen as being idealistic, but we've got to be. Who would have thought we'd be brought to our knees from a pandemic? Who would have thought, climate change and cyclones would be stopping, harming our whānau, harming our businesses? So, yeah, that's our principled stand. So we are unlikely to have changed it just because they've rejigged. It does look like a rejig.
Yeah, it does. Some changes, but not a lot. But then again, I think the previous iteration, there was certain groups around in the opposition and also, let's say, swelling the ground, who also were muddying what the previous iteration was. So I don't think the public really got a clear understanding of what the previous was. And this is similar too, but slightly changed.
It was good to hear the Prime Minister acknowledge that, and we'd been saying this for a while, that they'd left the Ngāi Mahuta out in the cold and quite often the dark as they were pushing this agenda along. I think the comms of it was shocking. But
100%.
Again, I think that's because there was a purposeful agenda to try and centralise and look after and cut costs and infrastructure and things like that. But the reality is, and I live in Taranaki, and we've forever seen warnings put up on our beaches, on our lakes. We can't swim, it's unswimmable, it's polluted, it's got this, it's got that. And I think the bigger issue for us is a little bit like the cyclone. And we know that people live in dangerous environments that perhaps shouldn't have been habitable. And when are we going to deal with some of those bigger issues? Yeah. So, I think what's disappointing is that we sort of keep clamoring around down here, literally in the gutters. And the issue for us as a nation hasn't been addressed, is when are we going to address the state of our water and the state of our drinking water, the quality of our mokopuna, of all of our children being able to be guaranteed that they can live in a good natural environment going forward. So,
one other kind of sub question, not about the main topic. John Tamihere making noises, making comments during the week about potentially Māori Party running in every seat. Is that still something that's on the table? Is it a decision you guys have made? Where is that at the moment?
I think in every Māori seat, that's always going to be a priority for us. So my understanding is that we have 6 of the 7 candidates. There's one that is going through a process, or an electorate that's going through a process at the moment. So I think that's probably all on track. And then there'll also be, and he announced this as well, there'll also be some strategic decisions made for various general seats. And we've had a lot of interest. And I think the polls reflect, which is really humbling, thankfully, that our tangata tiriti get it as well. And so they want to be part of this change and just resorting the balance of us as a nation. So I think that's been met with some real enthusiasm as well. So I mean, I guess everyone's sort of talking about the what's and when's and who's, but we're sort of just going through that really calmly and considered, so that we are we're not a rich party, so that all the candidates and those electorates are able to come up with some good support and figure out how they're all going to resource themselves.
Well, that is a consideration, isn't it? If it was in every general electorate, how do you then finance that? How does that then, are you spreading yourselves too thin, so to speak?
So I mean, if you look at the size of the Māori electorates, it's just huge. I think mine is like 9.5 hours long, 8.5 hours wide. Wow. But, that's those, and everyone matters. If you don't go to Pātia and then you do go to Tokoroa, then it's like not turning up to all your whānau gigs. So everyone matters. So I think and that's why we're often quite slower and deliberate, because we know the toll physically, mentally, and financially to do that. And we want to make sure that there's some really good consideration to all those things you've got to handle. But it can't be as hard as the baptism by fire we had for our 2020 campaign when we weren't in. I can't believe I think I got 11,500 votes, and I thought, man, that's so awesome, because we weren't even in. So the confidence and the movement has grown in just in force. So yeah, that's the other part, is about managing all the face-to-face gigs as people are deciding who's going to stand and who's not. So.
Let's have a look at what happened this week as well. So I'm reading off a Stuff article right now. During a Q&A session at a dairy farm on Tuesday, Christopher Luxon was asked, are you going to be able to win the electorate by working with the Maori Party, quote unquote? His reply, the short answer is no. He then went on to say the party that Key did a deal with back in 2008 was a party that believed in what we call localism and devolution. This is a party that now believes in two separate systems, and that is something we cannot support. Is the National Party eliminated you, ruled you out as a coalition partner post the election?
Oh, look, I don't know what Chris has done, because almost within an hour, and so through all of this, I did this really cheeky TikTok, which if anyone knows me, that's sort of where my alter ego comes out. But, and I guess I was trading and we sort of had this flick. Oh, Nationals ruled you out. Do you have a comment? And I was still on the treadmill when another one came about, maybe not an hour later, because I don't last that long on the treadmill. But another one popped up and sort of said, oh, no, don't worry. One of the national spokespeople have said they haven't ruled you out. And I'm like thinking, oh, what a flip-flop. The reality is that I guess this is where we see, sadly, that side of politics, when politicians will say what they want to say to who their audience is. We just cannot be distracted or rely on that type of cordial, and whether they want to or not. It's not up to him. It's up to us. The last time I looked, we get to decide who we would.
Well, unless they don't invite you. I mean, they have the element of saying, would you like to make a government with us or not? They could choose that. I mean, I don't like when media groups project seats. I never really pay attention to that, because what a poll is today. That's not what it's going to be in the future. But when they do project and they talk about balance of power and that kind of stuff, a particular party might be able to decide either way. I'm not saying it's going to be you guys, but a party could do that.
I honestly, and I'm with you. I mean, I'm not into the poll culture on a good day. And I'm an ex-marketer, sales and marketing. And I always just used to think, and our whole socials and the way we've run our comms has been completely against every blueprint that's been written. And everyone keeps telling us, you're wrong. And we just keep doing it our own way. I think our way that we feel the ground is, can we fill a bus? Do people turn up? Are we getting responses to this? And I think those are what we'll continue to poll by. It's organic. It's probably not very scientific, but actually it's how we've done it to date. And that's how we want to maintain that authenticity. I think going back, so you did right. They get to choose. And to be honest, I'm losing track of what it is that they say and don't say. And it's election year. And I've never been in Parliament during an election year. I've always seen it from the other side and outside.
Right.
And thought, but now I'm actually seeing almost like within hours, people flip-flop and change their minds, and they absolutely won't, then they do. And I think my long answer to the short question is that we can't say what National's going to do for National. Only they can say what they're going to say for them. What we can do is stay focused on our values and our transparency, which is what we said. And which is why I sort of push back about that comment of separatism and two systems. There's two systems in Aotearoa already. One that works for the very rich and one that works for the very not rich. There's already two systems in Aotearoa, and there has been for a very long time. Those who were completely displaced, demolished without lands and language, and luckily love was enough to sort of get them through and come back and want to actually just rebuild a united nation that respects that there were Indigenous peoples here, doesn't take anything away from anyone, but restores that degree of dignity. That's not a two-system approach. That's actually rebalancing. What we have at the moment is Chris Luxon's degree of a one-system approach where we have 2% of the population making decisions for 50%. 2% of the population own 50% of the wealth, making decisions for all of us, who landowners, and we've got homelessness. There's a whole lot of things that we already know that are two systems, and it's not a system designed by Maori. It's a system that's capitalism at its absolute worst. We saw two systems in COVID response where the haves got everything they needed and the have-nots, as we see in the cyclone. So I push back. against that whakaaro. I do think that that's a scare-mongering tactic. It implies that we're this bunch of angry, militant, I don't know, activists. We're definitely activists, but I think that we're proposing something that's a little bit more peaceful and dignified. And I guess some people see change and the fact that we talk a language that triggers as being two systems.
I'd be interested, and I know this is the kind of question that every politician gets asked, especially leading leaders of political parties, but we can't talk about what they're going to do. We can talk about a little bit about what you're going to do. I was watching, we talked about it on BHN a couple of weeks ago when Rawiri was on one of the breakfast shows with David Seymour, and David Seymour said, he basically warned the public of New Zealand not to trust Rawiri and what he stood for. Like, that is pretty close to the quote that what he said. And I thought on that day, oh, well, they've just ruled them out, haven't they? I mean, I can't imagine you guys wanting to work in any kind of constructive way with ACT. So is there anything you can tell us, like, so this is forget what they want, as to what you want for post-election, should you be in a position to help form a government on either side?
Oh, look, I remember that interview, and I think that's probably the only thing we do agree on is that we just wouldn't want to be working with anyone that triggers extremism to that degree. I think one of the things that, we do. So
does that rule? But does that rule out ACT? Does that rule out you being in government with ACT?
I'm pretty confident unless there's some major rejig on their policies and some major change of respect to Te Tiriti, that there's already a real obvious separation on any ability to be able to come together on any ground. I've worked beside Karen on her belief in, and she's one of ACT's MPs, in their belief in oranga tamariki, but philosophically in their policy realm, that would be just like, Mars and Venus. So, I don't think that I'm breaking any taboo by, stating the obvious. I think David. So
can I just get real? Sorry, Debbie. Can I just get real clarity here? Does that mean you are saying we can't work with ACT post-election, or does that, because kind of what you're saying? I hear that's what you're sort of saying, but I kind of want to just make sure, because you're also saying.
I'm sure we can't work with ACT now. I'm pretty sure that we. And like I said, look, every week people are changing their sphere. I've never seen it like it happens now. Right. And again, I've never been in Parliament to watch how everyone's suddenly they slip inside all the time. But we've been really open. Is that we just couldn't work with anyone that triggers extremism to the degree that we've seen that demotes and goes out to denounce that tangata whenua and Te Tiriti exists. And that's where we sit. We've always talked about being a Tiriti-centric Aotearoa that talks about respect of all our nations, respect of tangata whenua, and that we have a unique rights and interests relationship. That's not an exclusive relationship. That's just an Indigenous relationship. Denounce that is to say we don't exist.
I spoke to Raf.
Really open about that.
I spoke to Raf from the Top Party the other day, and he said basically if they get in, they're planning to sit on the opposition benches no matter what. Is there any part of Te Pati Maori that could choose not to form a government if you had the ability and choose to sit on the opposition benches?
Oh, look, I think it's really important that whoever is in government continues to have their unapologetic voice in opposition. And I guess I think there's this belief, and I think I said it to Jack Tame, we didn't come into politics to become ministers. We came and we reinvigorated the party to resume our role to hold the government to account. And sometimes it's also meant holding opposition to account, which was a bit new. So, that was what our vision is. We haven't come in for a 3-6 year stint to be minister of anything particular. We've come in to rebuild the movement and make sure that there is a tangata whenua voice that isn't vetted in this house. And I hope that we've proved that. Certainly, that's our point of difference. So again, what your answer? I think we've contemplated and we enjoy the position of being the only Māori voice in opposition, and we're not under any other party. We're not subservient. We are small, but we're very, very focused on what it is that we're there to do. So
Small but mighty. Small but
yeah,
mighty.
thank you. So and I think the other question you asked in respect to the going back to the separatism, I think it's really important that, and I sort of said to Rawari, it's really hard in the sound bites and stuff that we get in the media and in the tiles to actually reflect when you said what else would we do. I think one of the things that we would do is make sure that the cost of living crisis and the facts and the numbers and stats that we see for child poverty, the homelessness, and the fact that we're often talking past each other, and some of the key people in communities who are there to actually help those solutions are brought in, and we don't have governments that actually think they're the only solution, and there are, and we saw it, in a whole of other ways, the way that marae stand up. We've seen first the way the response efforts whenever the whole country's in crisis. So there's some of those that we'd want to bring sight to. I think the other thing is that we want to make sure there's a progressive plan to the climate crisis. And what we've sort of seen with this government was really disappointing as a backpedaling. So I think those are definitely some of the things, real basics, bread and butter, and being able to survive and thrive, and then be able to, thrive on our own, in our own nation, our own planet. So yeah, oranga tangata, oranga whenua.
Now, we're at about 20 minutes, which is the time that we said. Have you got 2 more minutes? Because we had one other little question. Is it okay?
Yeah.
I just, first of all, the thing that I said to Raf about that was, I know some people are going to be voting in a way that they want their party to determine the best for their voters. When I vote, I want a party to form a government. And I wonder about that idea for Raf. And I'm not saying you guys haven't said you're going to do this, but I said to him, if you're telling me right now that you're going to go into the cross benches, you're going to go into the opposition seats, then I'm not going to vote for you, because what that vote might end up doing is putting in the party or the government that I don't want in. Like, I want to put someone into the tent rather than keep them out. Now, I'm not saying that's right. That's just the way I was thinking when I was voting. Just a thought based around that idea of kind of sitting on the outside looking in, if you had the choice to go on the inside and look out, so to speak. But the one thing I wanted to say was, Christopher Luxon talked about the two separate systems. You're quoted as saying, we've always open about being pro-Māori. So it sounds like you're saying that, yes, there are two separate systems, rich and poor. He's saying there are two separate systems, Māori and non-Māori. I thought what I might do is give you just a minute or two, or whatever you want, to explain to us in layman's terms, when you say pro-Māori, what do you mean? Because other people are interpreting that as a special class of people who get rights and privileges that the rest of us don't. How do you see it? Can you explain it to us morons to give it a really clear definition? So if anyone questions that in the future, we can go, well, look what Debbie said. This is what it means to Te Pati Maori.
Yeah, no, I don't think you're morons. I just think that as a nation, we haven't talked about ourselves enough. We've talked about everyone else's history and being here. I think being pro-Māori is actually being positive about Te Tiriti and the opportunities that were afforded to us by our ancestors. The fact that there was a really great intent to bring the best of united cultures and nations, and acknowledgement that tangata whenua were here. I don't want to be treated special. I don't want my mokopuna treated special. I want to be recognised for who we are. That's it. And I don't think there's anything. And when I think I said we're pro-Māori, doesn't mean we're anti-non-Māori. What that means is, if you look at it, it's actually a balanced view that we're all really important. And I don't think that we have to put someone else down just because tangata whenua want to be recognised for our uniqueness and what it is that we have. Just as tangata tiriti do, just as we do as Aotearoa, just as we do as humans in the world. So I think that there's quite an inclusive, thought? Sorry, I'm bilingual. An inclusive thought about that, and we see the embracing of that often. We see the embracing that, hey, I'm a Kiwi, I tangi, and I go to marae like a Maori. Hey, I'm a Maori, I do and do things that have come from my European side, and none has lost anything. The problem is that Māori under Te Tiriti are pushing to actually be recognised equally. That's the problem. And I think that's all we're sort of trying to do, is no one's trying to take anything off anyone. And sometimes when a culture and a group of people who had, rights and interests here, and were born here nowhere else as the start of their culture, get, colonization kicks us around and they get left behind. And so I just don't think reaffirming that is bad.
Cool.
Yeah.
Debbie Ngarewa-Packer, co-leader of Te Pati Maori, thank you for joining us today.
Anytime. Thanks, Pat. Ka kite.
All right, guys, that's it. We're done. It's just a little shorty tonight. This is a pre-record. I'm not here live. I did this afternoon just because I had an opportunity to talk to Debbie, so I thought we can't turn this down. So just to wrap up the show, I want to say a huge thanks to our patrons. Huge thanks to Mr. Anderson, who signed up to be our latest patron a couple of nights ago, onto the fuel layer, which, if you don't know what that is, it stands for Fuck You Elon level. After he put some charges on Twitter, which ironically I now pay because I like to upload video to Twitter and it's longer than 2 minutes 20, so I give Elon money to be a part of his thing. So thank you to those of you who give us money to be a part of our thing. Spreading the love. Thanks for being with us tonight. Yep, I hope you enjoyed it. Pre-recorded, as I said, and we'll be back Monday night for another edition of Big Hero News. See you on Twitter over the weekend. Be safe,